The Zhiyun Crane 2. Is it worth it? Let's check it out. What's up guys, Will with F1 Tech. So for the past few weeks I've been using this gimbal, the Zhiyun, whatever you call it, the Crane 2. We'll stick with the Crane 2. And I just want to show you guys how I've been using this for my channel. I've been using it a lot for my B-rolls. I've been taking a lot of videos, whether it be family videos or videos that I do for work, like training videos, things like that. I want to get into how to balance this gimbal, which is so easy. I also want to get into the features and settings on what this gimbal can do. And finally, I'll show you guys a video showcasing what this gimbal has to offer. So with that said, let's jump right in. So let's talk about balancing this gimbal. There are 4 parts into balancing this unit. First, we want to mount the camera to the Crane 2. This gimbal comes with a nifty Manfrotto quick release mounting bracket, which is pretty cool because you can attach this to a Manfrotto tripod for easy, quick, interchangeable attachments. Now, the first axis we'll be adjusting is the tilt axis motor. There are 2 parts to adjusting this motor. First will involve adjusting the quick release plate. This is to adjust the camera to stay centered and not lean too much on either the forward or backward position. The second part of adjusting this tilt axis motor will be balancing the up and down position. We will need to adjust the axis until the camera can stay still in the vertical position. Moving on to the next axis we will need to balance will be the roll axis. We will need to adjust this motor so that the camera doesn't swing either to the left or the right. We want it completely still with the lens at the forward position. I'll show you guys once we attach the camera. And finally, we will need to balance the pan axis motor. This motor will need to be balanced until the camera can stay still while keeping the vertical arm level when turned either to the left or right. Adjusting this gimbal isn't hard at all, guys. It just requires multiple minor tweaking once you balance the whole thing out. So let's mount this camera, shall we? I'm going to be using my Canon 5D Mark IV today. This gimbal can hold a weight of up to 7 pounds, so using this camera on it should be cakework on the motors. I ended up swapping out the screws on the Manfrotto mounting brackets with one that has a ring. Tightening the screws without one is a bit of a pain if you don't have a penny or a flathead to tighten it up. So this is the Canon 5D Mark IV. I love this camera. I am seriously thinking of setting it to Canon and upgrade it with that C-Log profile. Whew. Let me know what you guys think about that. I'm also using a Samyang 14mm cine lens for today's shoot. Just got it yesterday, so I can't wait to see how the video image checks out. Now, the mounting bracket also has a support bracket for the lenses. I'm just trying to get this so that the lens bracket sits at a place where it won't mess with the focus or aperture ring on the camera, or on the lens rather. All that's left is to tighten up all the screws and we will be ready to attach this to the gimbal. One thing to note, guys, is that if you have any type of equipment that you want to place on the camera, you will need to do so before balancing the gimbal. That also means if you have a camera with an articulating screen, if you don't, then when you flip the screen or attach whatever equipment you put on, will cause the gimbal to be out of balance. Alright, so let's go ahead and slide this on. Yeah, there goes that ring again. So let me just fix that. Alright, so now we just need to go ahead and tighten the thumb screw. Couple of turns and we are ready to go. As you can see, this thing is way out of balance, and let's go ahead and start messing with it. Alright, so I like to start off by balancing the vertical part of the tilt axis. It is the easiest to balance out of the 4 in my opinion, and it's a good starting point. All you have to do is loosen the thumb screw and move the bracket left or right until the camera can stay still with the lens pointing up. Voila! Done. Alright, now we're going to go to the second part of this tilt axis adjustment, and we're going to start moving the bracket, the mounting bracket, until the camera doesn't tilt forward or backwards. As you can see right now, it is leaning towards the back, so I'm gonna have to start by moving this bracket forward a bit. Now, if you guys are doing this for the first time, it does take a little bit of getting used to, but once you get it, guys, it becomes such a breeze. Not bad for the first shot. Now we want to adjust the roll axis. We will need to adjust the bracket either to the left or right. It's depending on where the camera favors to. This bracket is usually a little bit on the tight spot. Just gotta push it a little harder. And voila! There we go. Tighten the screw and let's move on. Actually, I think I need to adjust this. My OCD is killing me, so let's go ahead and do that. Just push it in a little bit more. Let's see that. Just a slight tilt. I'm gonna push it back a little bit. Let's just loosen that. Alright. And that should do it. Yeah. That is good enough for me, guys. Last, we need to adjust the pan axis. What we need to do is lift the gimbal horizontally, and the camera should stay still with the lens at the forward position. Now, as you can see, the pan axis bracket is favoring the southern direction, so let's go ahead and adjust that. It wasn't too far off, so it's just a little bit of adjustment we need to do. Let's check it out again, and let's see, it's now favoring a bit to the north, so we just gotta do probably just one more minor adjustment and it should get it, guys. Let's see, just a little tad, that should do it, and that's as good as we want it, guys. That's how we want it to look, you know, as level as we possibly can. So I'm happy with that. The gimbal is now balanced and we are ready to turn this on and check out the settings. Let's just make sure that we're all good. And yeah, we're good there, guys. So let's go ahead and check the settings out. So let's talk about the button layout on this gimbal. At the side, you have your focusing wheel. You have your menu button at the bottom. We'll get to that in a few. The top has the LCD, which shows what mode you're in, along with battery information. Next, we have the joystick, which depending on which mode you're in, will set the position of the camera. We then have our mode button, followed by the power button. Now, the menu button is the only gripe I have with this gimbal. For me, it took a little getting used to navigate the menu settings. First, you have this scrolling option, which is how you navigate up and down the setting menu. Then you have buttons within the scrolling wheel that allows you to go left or right to access and leave the settings that you're adjusting. Kind of makes it a bit confusing at first because you know you're pressing the button, you're thinking it's like a joystick, but in actuality it's not. Now, if we look at the LCD display, you will see at the top right corner the remaining battery life you have until you need to charge it up. Below that, we have the mode indicator, which will either show PF for pan follow, L for lock, and F for follow. So, by pressing the menu button, which is not to be confused with the button at the center, you will have to press the bottom section of the scroll wheel to get to the menu options. Here we can change the sensitivity settings, which allows you to set how sensitive the gimbal is to your movements when panning. Let's see, we have the motor settings. That's so you can compensate to the camera you are using. For example, I'm using a Canon 5D Mark IV, so I would want to set the motor settings to either medium or heavy, depending on what lens I am using. Next, we have the camera settings, which is where we will connect the camera to the gimbal to allow camera control. From what I hear, the Crane 2 works best with a Canon brand camera. You can connect Sony and Panasonic to it, but I don't know how well this function works with those two brands. If any of you guys own this gimbal and use it with either one of those two brands, let me know in the comment section below if this works for you or not. The next few settings have to do with calibrating the motors on the gimbal. The user manual has a good description on when you should perform these calibrations and how to perform a 6-side calibration if you fall into one of the categories. Finally, you can fine-tune the motors through the angle setting on the stabilizer. Here you can adjust the tilt and roll axis angle to your actual needs. So let's move into the different modes this gimbal offers. The first mode I want to look at is the pan follow mode. In this mode, the camera pans left or right following the movement of the stabilizer while the tilt and roll axis are locked. You can push the joystick up or down, which will allow manual control of the tilt axis. I found that this setting is useful if you want to focus on just one subject while they're still and you want to do a shot where you walk around them, creating a pretty cool effect. Pan follow is probably my favorite mode. Though the others have their uses for different situations, this mode is definitely my bread and butter. Alright, let's move along. If we press the mode button once, we will enter the locking mode. This mode locks the movement of all 3 axes to keep the camera fixed on a shooting direction. By pushing the joystick up or down and left or right, it allows manual control of the tilt axis and pan axis. Now, I'm sure there are other situations where this mode can become useful. However, I find myself using it if I wanted to do an overhead shot or a vertical shot. Now, by clicking the mode button twice, we find ourselves in the follow mode. In this mode, the camera pans and tilts following the movement of the stabilizer. I found that this setting is useful for following fast-moving subjects like animals or children's playing. Pushing the joystick left or right will allow manual control of the roll axis. And finally, by clicking the mode button 3 times, you will enter selfie mode. This mode is pretty self-explanatory. Though you get pretty good shots in this mode, it is not the lightest selfie stick in the market. So now that we got all those settings and features out the way, let's take a look at the short video I made that illustrates how a gimbal can be used. I would like to thank my wife for volunteering to be my model for this shoot. Let's go check it out. Well guys, there you have it. So for me personally, this may be a bit overkill for what I use it for. Yeah, I probably could have gotten by just using a regular Steadicam, glide cam, instead of having a 3-axis motorized gimbal. But you know, I have it, I paid for it, I'm gonna use it. With that said, if any of you guys out there use a Zhiyun gimbal of any type, maybe a Ronin or a Steadicam or glide cam, let me know in the comment section down below. If you like what you see and you'd like to see more videos, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like and comment down below. Thanks guys again for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one. Peace.